Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul Taylor. I own and operate TCI Development. We're a building contracting company located in Southern California. If you've been following along on the channel, we're back out here on Dustin Williams' Legends Media Garage build. My guys are here this morning installing all the steel. So I'm going to go over and cover exactly what they're doing. They're building cages, and then they're lowering those cages down into the footings, and then they'll do the steel out in the field, goes 2 foot on center, and then they'll put little concrete Adobe blocks underneath it, and I'll cover all that after it happens. But let's go over and take a look. Hope you guys had an outstanding Thanksgiving and were able to see family and friends and had a great time. So let's go over here and take a look at what's happening on Dustin Williams' project. So you can see right here, they build the cages. You have these bins that go down inside the footings. So they build the cages up here. They have a rack system that they set them up on right over here. Let's go check it out. They build a rack right here. Okay. They set their bars up on top of it, and then they build all these cages and they tie everything together. So you can see right here, all these loops we built. You have the number 5, 2 number 5, which I mentioned in a previous video. You know, that's just how many eighths this rebar is. So that's 5 eighths. You have 2 number 5s on top and 2 on the bottom. And this goes down into this small footing here. Over here, they've already placed these. Same thing here. Except this gets 4 number 5s on the top and 4 on the bottom. You can see they have the bottom ones placed already. Right? And everything gets tied together. So he's placing the top number 5 over there. 4 of those. But here's the rack system. They set it all up here. They do all their tying, and then they just lower these cages down into the footings. Go over here and check out what Steve is doing. So he's using a rebar cutter because he has to make some bends around the corner. So he's using a rebar cutter to cut this steel. So that's what's happening out here today. We're going to continue on with this project. I'll do some more filming here in a minute once they get most of this into the trench. Show you guys how this rebar cutter works. So that thing cuts that easy through 5/8 inch steel, so you definitely don't want to get your finger in there. Okay, right now they're going to build this section that goes in here. Small section here, about 18 feet long. You can see, let me get down in here and show you how this looks. So you can see how this is all tied together, right? They tie everything. There's your 4 number 5s on top and your 4 number 5s on the bottom. And these bends right here, these are number 4 because all the steel out here in the field is going to be number 4 or 1/2 inch rebar. And go over here and check out what he's doing. So you see he's built everything on a rack system here, and all these ties have to go 2 foot on center. So you can see he's painted it with green paint, right? Painted it with the green paint. Now he's going to put the bends in there and he's going to start tying everything together, and then when they get this all tied, they're going to lower it down into the footing over there. And that's how it's done. All these go 2 foot on center. And then all the stuff that's coming out into the foundation here, out into the slab, this will get tied and overlap into all the bars that are going out here. Okay, let's go over here and check out what Steve is doing. He's bending some rebar to tie the corners in, and he has a hydraulic rebar bender here. That's how it's done. A lot easier than bending by hand. So Steve and Ruben have been doing this a really long time. They know what they're doing. They have the proper equipment to get the job done in a timely manner. So that really helps. When you know what you're doing, you build a rack system, You have expensive equipment like that rebar bender. Those things can be over $3,000. And then you've got the hydraulic rebar cutter. Those things, same thing, $1,500 to $2,500 for one of those. But that's the proper equipment, job done properly. I mentioned before in a previous video, anytime you dig footings, you know, the footings on large structures, we have to have our soils engineer come out and do a compaction test on our footings, just like we did when we did this lot for Dustin Williams. You guys that followed along, you saw we had to do a compaction test. Same thing for footings. You know, you have massive footings that are going to be holding up a huge structure, and we have compaction tests done on the footings. We don't have to have that done here because we already know that this soil was compacted to a 99%, which is outstanding. So, but I mentioned before, you cannot have any contamination, any soil touching the rebar. So I have my guy come through here, clean all the soil out, all the big chunks of dirt and everything that fall on the footings. You have to have all that cleaned out because you can't have any of it that might get wet and then touch rebar and contaminate the rebar. So you can see what we've done here. Nice and clean. Okay, footings are nice and clean, and this is the way you always want to keep it. Especially when the inspector comes out, he's going to look in here, he's going to see that you took the care and everything to make this nice and clean and make it a really clean job. And then he might not look over everything. So, you know, he might just glance at it real quick, say everything looks good, make sure none of your steel is touching the dirt at all, and then he'll sign your card and move on. So that's how you do this. And then we'll cover, when we put the steel out here in the field and put the dobies under it, I'll cover that in just a moment. So you can see what the guys are doing here. They put the rack up, and then Ruben, that's Ruben down here, he tied these wires right here to keep this rack from wanting to tip over, you know, either way. Keeps it nice and straight so they can tie everything up. Right, and then he's marking right here where the last number 5 bar is going to go. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the 4th one. But it's the rack system they build. Tie everything up, and then they lower it down into the footing. See, these guys carry around these spools of wire right here. They pull the wire out of the spool. That's how it's done. Okay, so the guys have all the steel in the footings. They've got it all in there and they've got it all tied off. They have the 3-inch concrete dobies underneath the steel to elevate it off the ground so there's no contamination. I'll cover that right now. And you can see right now, they're putting all the steel out into the slab. So this is number 4 steel, which is 4/8 or 1/2 inch. This is 2 foot on center. And right now they're tying every bit of it. So we'll go over here. Here's the little concrete dobies I was talking about right here. These are 2-inch, you know, these go in out in the field here. And then down inside the footing, you can see we have 3-inch. We have 3-inch dobies down inside the footings, elevating it up off the ground. So that's what's happening out here today. They're going to finish this up. They're going to start putting the dobies under here in probably about an hour. They've got a lot of tying to do still. You can see all the rebar that's in here, several thousand feet. So steel is almost completed. It will be completed by the end of the day, and then we'll call for inspection. When we can get an inspector out here, whenever he decides to come out, he'll come out and inspect it, which we'll pass, and then we can pour the concrete. You can see how Ruben's tying up the steel. He's got a spool of wire right here, and he has his pliers that he uses to twist it. That's why you hire professionals, right? You see how quick he does that? He'll have this thing all hand tied in no time. So you've seen on some of our previous jobs that we have a lot of rebar tying machines that we use. You know, there's a bunch of different kinds that we use for different applications, but this is the way Ruben likes to do it. Like I said, he's a former union guy and he's real quick at it, and he can tie as quick as any machine. So you know, he moves right along. So this is why we hire professionals like Ruben to get the job done. So we'll cover the dobies once they're installed, which will be here in the next couple of hours, and then that'll be a wrap on this job. Okay, so the guys have finished up out here for the Legends Media garage foundation. They finished hanging all the steel, have placed all the concrete dobies, so we don't have any steel touching any dirt anywhere. So if you're gonna get into building, or if you're gonna build a shop for yourself, or you're gonna become a contractor, this is what you can expect to do in the state of California. You know, I mentioned before, we're an earthquake state. There's a lot of steel just for this garage. You saw how much work went into it? This is what you can expect to do if you want it done right. This is how you do it right here, in my opinion. So some of you might have a different opinion, but this is the way you do it right. So let's take a look. See all the dobies? The rebar is perfectly straight, 2-foot squares. You know, Ruben and Bruce took the time to measure everything out and make sure that it's nice and straight, because we like it to look clean. Even though this is going in the concrete, it needs to look professional. It needs to be professional every single time. Not sometimes, not every now and then, every single time. So there you go. Everything is elevated in the footings. The footings are nice and clean. All the bars are tied off. You can see the ties right here. Everything's tied off. Outstanding job. Nice and clean. So when the inspector comes out, he's going to look at how nice and straight and the time that we took getting everything very professional and clean. He's going to look at that and he's going to sign the card and move on. So if it's all crooked, just laying in there, and you're not tied off, you don't have dobies, well, then you have other issues. So this is all done. Steel is hung. We're going to call for inspection. We're going to get this thing inspected, and then we're going to pour this slab. So probably take place next week sometime, hopefully, if we can get the inspector out. As I mentioned before, and even on Dustin's videos, everybody quit at the city. So they have new employees, and then they quit. So we're having a little trouble getting inspectors out here or getting a hold of anybody at the city. So appreciate you guys watching. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe, follow us along on all of our other projects. We have some big mansions getting ready to start. We're just finishing up some mansions, so follow us on all of our projects. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Just helps YouTube to recommend our videos to other people. You guys have an outstanding day, have an awesome weekend, and hopefully you can learn something by watching our projects that'll help you with your project.